The words of the teacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Futile, futile laments the teacher, absolutely futile, everything is futile. Thus begins and thus summarizes the Book of Ecclesiastes. The Book of Ecclesiastes sits, the 20th book in the Hebrew Bible, as we keep it in our Old Testament order in our English Bibles, right in the middle of the wisdom literature, and very much so also in the writings in the Hebrew Tanakh. And while it sits right there, it sits there rather uncomfortably. Because in a lot of ways, what the preacher or teacher has to say stands very much at variance with many of the other things that might be suggested in the wisdom literature and the wisdom tradition. And what exactly we should do with Ecclesiastes is going to be a major question that we need to consider. It's called Ecclesiastes, one of those fun words, because it's the preacher, Kohelet in Hebrew, the one who speaks in the middle of the assembly. And that's why it can also be, as in the NET here, teacher. And in Greek and Latin, you get ecclesiasticus, and because of ecclesia, the assembly, and the one speaking in the assembly. So that's where that term comes about and comes from. And it's this sermon that we have here that is in the mouth of Solomon, right, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Whether he wrote it or whether somebody is trying to write it as if he is Solomon with the authority of Solomon. And how you look at it is going to really determine how you approach this book in terms of its relationship to other books of the Bible and the canon. If it is written by Solomon, it would be written somewhere around 950 BC. It would be spoken to the assembly of the Israelites. And yet some have had questions about it. It does not have the name of God in it. So there's been some question about it, but generally, because of the confidence it was from Solomon, many have believed it is inspired, and we have tended to consider it as inspired scripture, and a very compelling counterweight to some of the things we find in wisdom literature. And to that end, there's a lot of profit here. And the message of Ecclesiastes, he's already said it, futile, chevel in Hebrew, which can translate vanity, futility, maybe even absurdity, if you want to look at it that way, how everything is in fact absurd. And he's going to go through it and look at it. And there's going to be certain tendencies we're going to see along the way that are very important. So he's going to talk about life under the sun. That'll be his constant go-to phrase, under the sun, life on earth, the way it is in this creation, in its current constituted form. And so in verses 3 through 11, he's going to talk about how cyclical everything is in the world, how generations come and go, the earth is the same throughout, that there's nothing really new, things are just different, it's already happened before. No one remembers what happened before, no one's going to remember in the future. And he's speaking this, you can even say lamenting this, this is the condition he finds in the world. The rest of the chapter, he considers himself and his position of authority, position of examination, and recognized that everything is futile, like chasing the wind, another one of his catchphrases throughout his message. You try to chase after wind, you can try to grab at it, you're never going to get it. And that's what a lot of human striving looks like. He has so much wisdom, right? And yet, as one with the greatest amount of wisdom, he himself recognizes that wisdom isn't everything, and that even wisdom itself has its limitations, that it bring great frustration, and that those who have greater knowledge increase their heartache. So we can see here what he's doing. He's meditating on the way life is, and he's running into a lot of limitations of mankind, seeing where mankind has gone in various directions that sometimes are unprofitable, or even if they have some profit, cannot be the ultimate, cannot be truly satisfying. This is especially what's going on in chapter 2. In chapter 2, in the guise of the fact that he's Solomon, or as the guise of Solomon, explores everything, explores all forms of human pleasure, and he takes them to the extreme. He would go out and party, realize it's folly. He would engage in all kinds of self-indulgent pleasure. It doesn't lead to anything. He looks to see if there's any profit in any of these things. So he buys everything up. He builds houses, he builds vineyards and gardens. He's got slaves, he's got livestock, he's wealthier than everybody else, he's got more of everything than everybody else. If anybody's going to be happy with stuff or with experiences, is going to be Solomon. But what does he conclude from it all? He concluded that it's profitless in the end, that it's like chasing the wind. There's nothing gained from them on the earth in verse 11. And then again, he does the same thing he did earlier with wisdom, again, and he compares it again to folly. And he says it's preferable to folly, right? Wisdom is definitely preferable. However, what's going to happen to the fool ultimately happens to the wise man as well. Both are going to die. And so, why have I spent all this time doing stuff if it's just going to end in the end, right? And plenty of times the wise are forgotten. Sometimes the foolish are remembered, right? One of those savage things that happens in life. And he loathed life because what happens on earth seemed awful. The benefits of wisdom are like chasing wind. And that's when he kind of tried to invest in work and just work hard. You know, a lot of times we cope with things in our lives but become in workaholics of sorts. But what happens? Anything you try to do, you put all your effort into it. Anything you gain, you only have a short time or give somebody else. So it's also, in the end, futile as well. And we start seeing him talk about something he'll talk about many times, which is you work hard for something, somebody else is the beneficiary of it. Maybe your descendant, maybe the person who comes and steals it from you or takes it from you in war. And that is a very savage injustice that the preacher very much laments. And so he concludes already that it's nothing better for people to do than to eat and drink, find enjoyment in their work. And he perceived this has come from God, and that God has blessed people in this way. And sinners are not blessed that way. They do not enjoy that kind of comfort. And that's where the preacher is still part of the wisdom tradition, right? He's not completely separate from it. He's just sitting in it and willing to see the end of the matter and be willing to critique and to see that it is not the ultimate in life either. Beginning of chapter 3, a very famous passage, there's a time for all kinds of things based on the song by the Birds. Many are very familiar with this, a time to be born, a time to die, things of that nature. Very important to keep in mind, there are seasons and times where people go through things or various things happen, and that's something that remains true to this day. Verses 9 and following, he again reiterates concerns about the benefits a worker gets from all of his labor, that people don't really understand things as much as God understands things, that God's work endures forever, even though humans do not. He sees in beginning, end of chapter 3 and into chapter 4, the existence of oppression, that there are people who are suffering. There's wickedness where there should be justice, right? And that it is sore and grievous to him. He expects God to provide ultimate judgment, but he sees that people are like animals on that way. They live, they suffer, they die, and that's it. He sees oppression and realizes that the oppressed have no one to help them. The oppressor continues to benefit, but they both die. They all die in the end. And he says it's better to be dead than to see these things. Better is the one who's never been born to see all the evil that's happened on the earth. He again considers labor, where somebody is working hard just in competition, and that ultimately that's vanity. He does warn against the dangers of laziness and not working, and the fact you can eat yourself because you don't have anything to provide for food for yourself. But it's also better to work hard and to rest than to have so much more by working so much that you never get any rest. And also concern in chapter 4 about labor motivated by greed and those who are constantly trying to get more when they've already got enough. And to whom is it going to go? What benefit is it ultimately going to provide? That is ultimately futile. Something many of the wealthy do well to consider. He talks in verses 9 through 12, a very famous passage about the benefit of more than one person. Two people better than the one. The threefold cord is not easily broken. Very famous passage. He talks about the benefit of being poor and wise rather than old, rich or king and foolish, and has kind of an illustration of that. In chapter 5, again, he's providing more of a wisdom theme here, a lot of proverbs and things of that nature. He says that you should be careful when you go in the presence of God, and to not lie, to have your words be few, to be careful about how you make vows. If you make vows, you're going to see corruption in government, but realize that every single person who has authority has an authority over them, that God will judge, and he is not easily corrupted. It cannot be corrupted at all. The warning and danger that comes to covetousness, the greed that if you love money, you'll never be satisfied by it, and the sleep of the laborer can be pleasant. The wealth of the rich will keep them from sleeping because they're concerned about their property. He's seen situations where somebody hoards wealth to the hurt of the person hoarding it, and had nothing to give to those in need, and did not give to those in need, and then had nothing when it was all said and done. Everybody will return to the womb from the way they came, with nothing. People work hard, and it's a great misfortune if they've worked for what? What benefit has come to them at all? And that is why, again, he says, it is good to eat and drink, find enjoyment in your hard work on earth. For the few days of your life that God has given them, this is the reward. These are the gifts from God. In chapter 6, he again goes into how there's a man who has everything he'd ever want, but instead of being able to enjoy it, it goes to somebody who has not worked for it. And again, the very, very distressed at that prospect and possibility. And thinks better to be a stillborn child than to go through any of that. That he continues to talk about how the fact that God is greater than us and understands how things work in ways that we do not. Chapter 7, very much more proverbial, has these kind of quick little ditties. Good reputation is better than precious perfume. Likewise, a day of one's death better than the day of one's birth. Better to go to a funeral than a feast, for the death is the destiny of every person. The living should take care. Things like that. Verse 10, really important for us to remember these days. Do not say, why were the old days better than these? For it is not wise to ask that. That warning and danger about nostalgia, where we kind of a gauzy picture of what happened in the past, and we are kind of only focused on the challenges of the present. The value of wisdom, understanding God and His power, is part of wisdom. That sometimes people die even though they're righteous, and sometimes wicked people live a long time. And warning, don't be excessively righteous or excessively wise. You might be disappointed otherwise, which seems a very strange thing to say, but again, the critiques that he has of the whole tradition here. And these are the kind of things going on in chapter 7. And of course, ending with God has made humans upright, but they have sought out evil schemes. Very, very famous passage there, too. Chapter 8, talking about the importance and wisdom of how to approach a king, and what to say and what not to say, and how to act in front of a king. Be very careful about those that are in authority. Then also the danger of making your religiosity apparent before people and how that could backfire on you. He also talks about the enigma, the difficulty, where sometimes the righteous suffer what the wicked should suffer. The good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people. And he says he doesn't provide an answer. He just says it happens. It's chasing it, and you try to figure it out. It's like chasing after wind. It's beyond our understanding. And again, what does he say? He recommends the enjoyment of life. There's nothing better on earth than for a person to eat, drink, and enjoy life. Joy will accompany him in his toil during the days of his life God has given him on the earth. He then again goes through the limitations of human wisdom. God understands things, people do not. Everybody is going to die, no matter how fastidious you are in your religion, no matter how righteous or wicked you are, everyone is going to die. But whoever's among living least has hope and has something to enjoy. A live dog is better than a dead lion, he comments. And that's why you should just go enjoy your food, enjoy your drink. Let your clothes be white, do not spare ointment on your head. Enjoy life with your beloved all the days of your life that God has given you on your fleeting days. Whatever you do with your hands, do with all your might, and then find enjoyment with it. You're not going to find that enjoyment in the grave. He also talks about how sometimes the race is not by the swiftest, the battle is not always won by the strongest. And sometimes time and chance happen. Again, one of those very important passages, and for good reason. And no one knows their appointed time, that you don't know when the end is going to come. It's like getting snared in a net. And people often may not listen to wise counsel, including those in authority, and provides a story to that end. Continues this kind of wisdom thing in chapter 10. The warnings about people not listening to wisdom, and the importance of having wisdom in everyday life, and the gain of it. And the danger that comes if a land has a foolish ruler, but the blessing that comes when their rulers are in better discipline. Chapter 11, very similar things. Toward the end is where it talks about the enjoying of life. And he says to the young men to rejoice in their youth, to let their heart cheer them, to follow the impulses of their heart and the desires of their eyes. God will hold them accountable. This is not a call for hedonism or do whatever they want. It is a recognition that when you're young, you've got energy. You've got that vitality in life. And he's encouraging them and commanding them to go pursue their dreams. Go do something. Go make something of yourself at that time of life, because that's the time you and the energy you have for it. And there'll be plenty of time for all kinds of anxiety and stresses of life later. Youth and the prime life are fleeting. They need to remember the Creator and the days of youth before life gets unpleasant. That's the message toward the end. In chapter 12, 1 through 8, you've got this description of the decaying process, whether you think it is metaphorical or more concrete. He's describing how the various parts of the body fall apart, and you don't see as well, don't hear as well, you're not able to move as well, you can't taste as much, your teeth might fall out. Again, these are all part of that process of aging and disability that comes from aging. And of course, what does it end with? It ends with everyone dying, where the dust returns to the earth as it was, and life's breath returns to the God who gave it. And his lament, his comment, he ends as he began. Absolutely futile, the laments of the teacher. All these things are futile. So what are we supposed to do with this? Well, the editor of the text is wondering the same thing, perhaps. Beginning in verse 9 through 14, he concludes his comments about the wisdom of the teacher and how he taught things and tried to encourage people toward wisdom. He warns the one he's writing to. There's no end of making many books, and of the study there's a lot of exhaustion to it. And having heard everything, the editor says, the conclusion is to fear God, keep his commandments, because this is the whole duty of man. God will evaluate every deed, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. And we're not going to suggest the preacher would deny that or disagree with that. And maybe the preacher would agree that would be a great summation of his message. But it does stand somewhat at variance, and you can understand that final comment is kind of trying to provide a pious veneer on the whole thing in the wake of everything that you've heard. Because what the preacher has to say is quite stark. And many people find it depressing, because what he's doing, though, is a very important service. He's not trying to be depressing. He's trying to refocus us on what's ultimately what we can and should take pleasure in. To realize that a lot of times we want to put a lot of value in things that are fleeting and passing away. He's observing that life under the sun, life in the current creation, is futile. We live, we're going to die. Everything around us is going to die. No institution is going to endure. It's all going to fade and fall apart. And so we cannot invest ultimate meaning in any of those things. Instead, it's given for us to enjoy life, to enjoy the feeling of the sun on your face, to enjoy seeing the beauty of the creation, to appreciate time in relationships with people, to enjoy food and drink, to enjoy these things that we often take for granted. The little things in life. That's what we're given to enjoy in the time we've got, which we don't know how long or short it's going to be. And the work we do, we should do it and enjoy the work. If it's mind-numbing, soul-crushing, is it really worth it? Because it's all that we have. This is what we're given to do. And yes, in Jesus we have a confidence that what we can't say and do will endure because of the hope we have, the resurrection in Jesus, something that the preacher does not have in view in his message. But we need to keep what the preacher says in mind, because we are too tempted to invest a lot of meaning and value in things that are ultimately going to pass away. And that the preacher's not wrong when it comes to the way it works in the creation. And that we need to find ways to enjoy what God has given us as we seek to pursue sharing eternal life with Jesus in the resurrection. This is wherefore we see with Ecclesiastes, and we're so glad you joined us. If you have any questions, comments, or thoughts that you'd like to provide about what the preacher has to say in Ecclesiastes, we'd love to hear about it. Let us know in the comments. Continue our conversation. I'm Ethan with the Adventist Church of Christ. If we can be of any service to you, please let us know. If you'd like to study with us, if you'd like to meet with us, if we can pray for you, let us know. Reach out to us at AdventistChurchofChrist.org. You can also find us online at AdventistChurchofChrist.org or on social media at Adventist Church of Christ. We again thank you. May the Lord bless and keep you, make his face shine upon you, until we're able to meet again.